My name is Mbula Musau. I am a coffee enthusiast, first and foremost, and I'm also trained on coffee quality. My background training is in business. I studied in business and I also mastered in development management. I'm trained to teach people on coffee. We are about 45 international Q grader instructors in the world, and I happen to be the only one doing Arabica coffee instruction in Africa. I do it out of Africa as well, but my passion to set up the Utake Coffee Lab was after realizing the gap that there was in high quality coffee training in the region. Yet, a good percentage of the coffee that's traded globally comes from Africa. And in fact, some of the most unique tasting profiles that you will find in coffee exist in Africa. So that was a big motivation for me to see if there was anything we could do to fill that gap. Growing up, we never really drank coffee. We knew there was coffee in Kenya. We were taught in primary school that it's one of Kenya's cash crops. But had we ever tasted it? No, I actually came to taste coffee for the first time at 19 years old. It was known to be the bitter drink that's taken by older people, boring people. I don't know if that was just to make us not develop a passion or a tasting for it, but on the first instance that I tried high quality Kenyan coffee, I knew there was something there and it piqued my interest, and I just thought this is not something that should be withheld from the Kenyan populace because it's high quality, it's available, and it should be enjoyed by the people who produce it. I like to say that I bumped into coffee because I totally wasn't out looking for this career. I was out on the conventional path. As you know, everybody finishes school and joins a certain career path. However, on one of the days, while I was waiting to join college, I came across a building under construction, and I was just curious to know what was going to be set up there. I talked to the people I found there, and they said they were about to set up the very first specialty chain of coffee shops in Kenya. And I thought, wow, coffee. I like the smell of coffee, but I don't know anything about this. And when I spoke to them, they said they did not really need experience at the time because there wasn't much on specialty coffee that was happening in the country, and they were willing to train from scratch. So that was my perfect opportunity to apply, which I did. And so I learned everything I did from the beginning with this company, the very first company to offer specialty coffee locally, export quality coffee to Kenyans. So that was the beginning of my journey, and as I continued, the curiosity just grew. We got to learn about not only the varieties, the grades that exist in Kenya, but also different types of coffee drinks that we had never known. We only knew of the straight brew, black, bitter coffee. All of a sudden, we got to hear of espresso, we got to hear of cappuccinos and lattes and mochas, Americanos, and all that was very interesting for me. So what I decided was to study as I worked part-time and eventually make a decision on if that was the career I was going to take. And as a result of my passion and dedication on through working weekends, working holidays, my employers decided to groom that passion into an actual full-blown career. At the time I was studying, I was now joining college for my Bachelor of Commerce. And so I was studying in the week, and on the weekend I would work, or on long holidays or when the universities were on strike, I would find time and go and work and basically just learn as much as I could about this new commodity. To me it was new because I had never really tasted high quality coffee. So from there, we started undergoing trainings, international coffee trainings that of course opened my mind wider than just the scope of Kenyan coffee. And it's at this time that the Eastern African Fine Coffees Association was looking for a quality professional. And so they interviewed a number of people, and I managed to get into the quality and marketing department. And this association served 10 countries. The secretariat was headquartered in Uganda. So I had to move to Uganda, where I stayed for about 10 years. And that grew my scope from just Kenyan coffee to Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, and one of our biggest consuming countries in Africa, which is South Africa. So in addition to just the trade of green bean, we started participating in barista championships, which involve young people or roasters, owners of roasteries, preparing specialty coffee drinks. Of course, also as a way of promoting domestic consumption. So we took that up as the Eastern African Fine Coffee Association as a way to grow domestic coffee consumption in the region. So that became another line of business and projects, and we have seen about 6 countries now participating in the World Barista Championship. Just last month, no, actually earlier this month, we had the World Barista Championship in Boston, and we had young people from around Africa going to showcase their skills side by side with other baristas from buying countries. So that got me also to realize gaps in training, and if we are to sell a high quality commodity, we needed to understand what the high quality commodity is and how it is judged or perceived by the market. Therefore, we needed to have the level of quality that happens in buying countries right here at origin, which was the biggest motivation in setting up Utake Coffee Lab. The main aim was to enable us speak the same language with buyers around the world on what is expected on quality, on compliance, on certification, on the trade in general. So we went through the process of acquiring the certification, and we managed to do that. And since 2013, I was doing it as an independent consultant, but I set up Utake Coffee in 2016 to be able to have a facility where people can actually come in, and I don't have to be going around doing this around the world. I still do that, but I also offer the opportunity for people in the region to come at origin and learn about coffee, and then from there decide, do I want to be a roaster? Do I want to set up a business in barista? Do I want to drink more coffee? And so on. So all that in summary to say it's a long-term vision that is not only beneficial to our buying markets, but also to our locals, given what the benefits of taking coffee are. I think on less trodden paths or uncharted territories, there's always the fear of how the success or failure of your venture would be. But I think for me, the aha moment when I first tasted high quality Kenyan coffee was enough to tell me that there were many other people just like me whose reasons for not consuming coffee in Kenya were not what is known out there. It's not price, it's not myths, it was more of just not understanding, not knowing what is available. So from the beginning, I knew that's the reason I started drinking coffee. It's not that all of a sudden I got more income or anything like that. It's exposure that is available right here, but people don't realize it. So for me, that was a less of a risk, because then I knew there are people like me who would be interested in consuming a high quality coffee. On the side of training, it was definitely a risk, because it's like creating a market or trying to grow a market for something that is not yet as infiltrated in culture. Yeah, we are dominantly a tea drinking community just because of our colonial history. However, that does not mean that if you drink tea, you cannot drink coffee. And as a result of the initial passion and discovery of what it is that we had in our coffee in the country, I felt like if there was enough information on what the commodity or the product is and what business opportunities existed, Kenya being so aggressive and interested in business and growing the economy, this would be something that would interest a number of people. So as much as there was risk, there was an expected return just because of the environment within which I was setting it up. The other reason for setting up in Kenya or at origin was because already out there were a number of premier teaching campuses. You could go to Europe or US or Asia and you will find this type of facility the way you would find cafes. However, at origin, they were not there. So knowing that the issue of price negotiation had a lot to do with understanding quality, that's something that interests not only people who are trading, but even farmers. When they know what's coming from their land, then they're able to negotiate a better price. So the opportunity for me was the biggest driver. It seemed that we are already endowed. We have the natural endowment of some of the finest coffee in the world, but there was something missing in terms of knowledge and exposure, yet it was all within our reach. So it was really a risk that had a kind of equal rate of return if done the right way. And I was thinking, as long as we've gone through it the right way, then it should not fail, because I've seen it work in other origins and other countries. So as much as the risk is there, there was a bit of a hope in what would be in the long run. Yeah, it's not been easy. It's not been easy, but I must say the first thing that worked for me is the era which we are existing now of the internet and connectivity and the ability for people to go online and see something that's being brewed at the same exact second in the US or in Europe and want to see something like that in Kenya. Something like 10 or 15 years ago, that was not there. It was really what you read in newspapers or magazines that advised how business is conducted in different parts of the world. So the connectivity we have now was a big boost or a big a vehicle to helping us realize that these things are happening elsewhere and we can also enjoy the same. In terms of consumption, I must say when people taste high quality Kenyan coffee brewed in the most simple ways and enjoy it, the look in their faces, the effect it has on them, for me is always a very big high. No pun intended, but you know, you look at somebody who didn't know much about what is available and they get to try it and change their minds about the commodity or the product. That's always very rewarding. I remember, as I mentioned earlier, I was working at this coffee shop while studying, and so I would take high quality coffee back to campus. And I remember I'd brew coffee and our entire hall would just be smelling of nice quality coffee. Students love and need coffee to keep studying and keep their energy levels up. So just seeing them respond like that to the coffee, regardless of the price, told me that it's a matter of ignorance or lack of knowledge that actually causes people not to consume what we have. And from that young age, it stopped being a barrier per se. It was just an opportunity. So the high for me is really getting people to understand the commodity and try it and love it and come back for more. The other high I get is when I see more of young people, women and men participate in these international trainings and actually hold an international qualification that is so sought after around the world and be able to speak the same language as a buyer. In my classes here at Utake Coffee, I've been privileged to have participants from farm level, you know, young people who are inheriting farms, coffee farms from their aging parents, and they are not even aware of what they need to do with it. And by the time they clear the training here, they have a whole 5-year, 10-year plan on what should happen at the farm level and how they can access markets. For me, that has been great, just seeing that progress, seeing cooperatives that have been depending on other players on the value chain to determine their quality, being able to taste coffee before it leaves their cooperative and therefore be able to say we cannot take a price lower than this, for me has also been a great thing, because what that does is it's empowered them and it has given them the ability to negotiate on a similar level playing ground. So that for me has also been really, really great. The other thing I must say is we had statistics on coffee experts around the world. For a long time, the lowest numbers were in Africa. Now, as of 2018, based on our review, we had more than 42 international coffee experts trained just in 1 year in Africa. So those numbers, if they're to have a compounded effect over the years, tell me that we're able to grow in the number of internationally qualified coffee experts and therefore be able to trade our commodities more competitively and with more understanding. So for me, seeing those numbers grow, seeing more young people, more stakeholders in the coffee value chain getting to the same level as what the global experts have is also a very rewarding thing. It's been a great high. And lastly, I remember when we started with the coffee shop I mentioned years ago, the coffee aisles in supermarkets were appalling. You know, you walk in there and it's coffees of such low quality, such bad packaging, and that's what was available to us. Fast forward to almost 20 years later, we have fine coffee available on our coffee aisles in any supermarket, be it a small local county supermarket or a big multinational chain that exists in the cities. We have a wider range of coffees available. We have much better packaging and people have a deeper understanding on what constitutes coffee quality. So for me, seeing that progress, because I was there when it was really low and I'm seeing what is available now, is a big sign of progress, and that really gives me a high that we are on to a good cause. There are naturally occurring disasters or calamities that affect agricultural commodities, something like the recent climate change phenomenon. That has affected coffee production and coffee quality across not only Kenya but coffee producing countries. We attend coffee cupping competitions and have attended these coffee cupping competitions for more than 10 years now. And I remember 10 years ago, scores of coffee that would blow you away. Same area now, many a times has dropped a few points. Not because the farmers are different, but because there are some factors that cannot really be controlled or changed by the farmer or the processor. And that really saddens me because it's not something that is easy to deal with, especially when we have farmers who are unable to mitigate as a result of their economic status. So that for me has been a big low. As you can see, the rains have delayed so much right now. Coffee depends on rain for flowering and producing high quality cherry. So you can already imagine what will happen to the quality and the volumes in production. So that's one of my lows. The other one is price. Price fluctuations in global markets have been a big issue, to the point that right now there is a coffee price crisis initiative that has been set up to look into the reasons behind such low prices for coffee globally. Prices that do not warrant farmers to continue on the line of coffee production. They are very close to cost of production, meaning profitability is not something that they are currently enjoying. There's always the assurance that it's up and down, and when it's up, they will get back what they lost when it was down. However, it's very difficult to plan based on that. So there are many ways of making sure that that does not affect them as farmers. For example, increasing domestic consumption so that we have a sizable market in Kenya and in Africa, just in case the New York or London prices that determine how much our coffee is selling in consuming markets are not favorable. So it's something that should give us a bit of a choice. I feel that the fact that we are not yet able to make that choice and are so dependent on New York and London and what's happening in Brazil and the other big coffee growers is a low for me. Countries like Ethiopia are consumers of more than 50% of their coffee. They understand their coffee and they are able to somehow combine the dynamics of the local trade and international trade to ensure that they can sustain their coffee sectors. So I would wish the same for other African producing countries that don't enjoy something similar. I must say in every business or sector, we have battled with gender inequality, historical inequalities that become almost the norm. They become, you have to prove yourself a number of times more for your business to be recognized. There's always the question of where did you get your resources? And you almost have to justify the fact that you have actually studied to enable you be a master at your art. I remember when I was starting out, I had a number of people who did not, being also a paternalistic society, did not believe that I was, able to run the kind of trainings that we do here. And they would ask you for a number of pages of your CV before they could even give you a hearing. So those challenges on a personal front are there. But with time, and with all that's going on with the SDGs and affirmative action and a push for gender equity, that has really, really helped women in coffee, youth in coffee, and other marginalized portions of the society to know that they can go in and do something that they want without needing to explain too much to the naysayers. So that for me has been one of my biggest personal challenges. But over time, thankfully, I feel like we have crossed that barrier and we're able to do what we do with as much legitimacy as our male counterparts or people who've been in the business for a long time. Initially, also the issue of being young in a sector like coffee that kind of had its own godfathers and companies that have been there for many, many more years, initially was a challenge. But thankfully for us, the issue of the aging population in coffee needed to be addressed. And all of a sudden, there was this drive to involve more young people in taking up coffee business. You didn't have to inherit property to run a coffee business. I don't own a single tree of coffee, but I've found ways or areas on the coffee value chain to plug in that don't have to do with production. So all these evolving trends and growth in the sector have been turned from being a negative thing to a positive thing. But as I said in the beginning, you'd walk into a class and the people you need to teach have been in cooperatives as old guards for years. They can be your father or your grandfather. And many times they do not agree with everything that you say just because of what they have always done. Now, with a new standardized system of teaching through the Coffee Quality Institute and the Specialty Coffee Association, we're able to deliver standardized training material that even people who have done things a certain way for so many years are able to come to a point of convergence and agree on what they will continue with as a country and what is accepted internationally as a standard. So that has also kind of turned in our favor, because now we have a standardized language as opposed to only one thing. And this standardized language, mark you, is recognized now even in local or national regulation authorities. They're able to say the Q grader course is sufficient for somebody to set up a business, a coffee business in Kenya or Uganda or Rwanda or Burundi, whereas before you had to have a national license that sometimes did not agree 100% with the international standards. So that has been a big area of growth that I'm also thankful for. So I would say with time and having been in it for a number of years, some of the challenges have somehow turned into opportunities. Yeah, the youth one that I mentioned earlier, the gender one, with everything that's happening to address emerging issues that could affect the bottom line for many industries, that has really worked to our advantage. I would tell a young person who is interested in changing or exploring something new that your biggest fan can be yourself, but your biggest non-fan, or for lack of a better word, can also be yourself. You have to be your biggest motivator or your biggest cheerleader, and we have everything at our disposal to give us the information we need to cheer ourselves on. Previously, when we were growing up or thinking of careers, we didn't have that. We needed to have mentors, we needed to watch people who have gone through the conventional kind of careers to determine where we wanted to be. I see that difference now with millennials, even when they come to my class. There are people, the current barista champion for Kenya is a trained aeronautical engineer who got an interest in coffee and decided he's going to try out in the national championship, and he won and represented Kenya in Boston. So he still has his very different career path available and accessible to him, but he is also brave enough to venture into something that gives him joy. There's nothing worse than working a job 8 to 5 that one does not enjoy. But there's everything to be said about working in a job that is fulfilling, is enjoyable, and that you can see growth waiting for you. And so that's what some of these unconventional careers do for you. You might not get to where exactly you had seen, especially if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, but it gives you an opportunity to explore something you've never tried. And if it goes well, then it's all for the better. So I would say be brave, go for it, make a decision. There's so many areas you can play on the value chain. You can be an exporter. If you have a farm or you have family farm, you can go that direction. And now with digital technology, it's something that can combine academic skills and the commodity opportunities. So there's really a very big canvas where the young ambitious people can actually explore. So I would say go for it, just make a choice. Do I want to be a barista? Do I want to stick on the farming side? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? And am I willing to take on the risks? What is available to me in terms of support, financing, policy, and just be woke. Basically, take in as much as you have at your disposal in your environment and use it to the best of your ability for the eventual success of your career. In this day and age, there is no one way. You can be so many things at the same time, or you can be one very passionate thing that probably had nothing to do with your training. So if you feel it within yourself and you have enough information to go with it, just be brave. Bravery is one of the things that would really take you places.